then maybe the only way to counter a covenant or domi reversi is through an outside source. Someone who isn't branded, someone who can impose their will and haki onto yours, overpowering the control without being suppressed themselves.
All the nations that we have that have like the sun symbol or the moon symbol or the D symbol in general, you know what I mean? So I started thinking of all the different nations that are probably tied to Joy Boy that have that symbol of the circle, the sun god. So
there's something about Harold's inner monologue that I find incredibly interesting too. So, under the Depth Covenant, Harold is clearly being controlled by Imu, and the question he asks himself are telling. Why did his body move on its own? Is he incapable of resisting Imu? Can his thoughts be altered? Will this control last his entire life? Is he unknowingly just carrying out Imu's orders by taking the lives of his own men? As I was reading this, one thought kept coming back to me. Did Imu find a way to bypass haki? We know it's the core rule of One Piece that haki can overcome Devil Fruit abilities. The only way a Devil Fruit isn't overridden is if the user's haki is equal to their opponent's, effectively canceling each other out. But here's the thing. Harold isn't utilizing his haki at all during the sequence by choice. This makes me wonder, what if Imu, through these covenants and domi reversi, engineered a method to bypass that weakness entirely? The brand itself could act as a haki suppressant. Once you're branded, once you're bound by the covenant, Imu can hijack your will, preventing you from effectively using your haki to resist them. You're not weaker physically, your will itself is compromised, which is something I theorize with Rocks and his inconsistent haki feats and domi reversi. If that's true, then maybe the only way to counter a covenant or domi reversi is through an outside source. Someone who isn't branded, someone who can impose their will and haki onto yours, overpowering the control without being suppressed themselves. That could explain why Roger and Garp were able to pull Rocks out of domi reversi, and it might also explain how Joy Boy's haki knot forced the Gorosei out of their transformed states. If you wanted to make a similar analogy from another anime, it's like Naruto and Genjutsu. Usually, if you don't have like Kyuubi, or like a Biju inside of you to knock off the Genjutsu, you have to have somebody else insert their chakra into you in order to get you out of the Genjutsu. And here's where it gets interesting. Maybe Joy Boy's haki didn't completely break the Gorosei's covenant, but instead reversed it one step. So maybe they're at the top covenant, which is the Abyss, I'm assuming. Joy Boy's haki knot basically brought it down to the Depths covenant. So if the Gorosei are bound by a deeper agreement, what we might call the Abyss covenant, then Joy Boy's haki knot could have knocked them back down to that Depth covenant I just mentioned, rather than ending the control entirely. And if that's the case, then maybe Joy Boy's haki simply wasn't enough to fully stop it on Egghead through Emmett's haki knot. And if that is true, this could be how Joy Boy ultimately lost. It made me think back to our conversation, why Imu should be over Joy Boy or Joy Boy should be over Imu. I think Joy Boy understood the covenant. I think he tried to counter it. Just like Imu uses a brand to control people, Joy Boy may have created one of his own to protect his allies from the covenant. That brings us to the mysterious X, that mark that appears on Luffy's arm in Gear 5. What if that X is Joy Boy's counter brand? A safeguard meant to prevent his allies from being taken over by the Domi Reversi or a covenant. It would explain why Emmett also bears an X on his arm. And we've seen this symbol before, long before it was ever important, right? Luffy gave his allies the X like Vivi during the Alabasta arc without Luffy fully understanding why. What if the Devil Fruit itself, the Nika Fruit, having a will of its own, was acting through Luffy's subconscious, planting a precursor to what was coming long before Luffy understood its meaning? Ultimately, guys, what I'm suggesting is this. Joy Boy may have been tricked into receiving Imu's brand somehow. Even if Joy Boy's haki was stronger, Imu didn't overpower him. They deceived him. And once bound by the covenant, Joy Boy may have committed acts under Imu's control, destroying the ancient kingdom, taking the life of Poseidon, becoming remembered as a destroyer of worlds to some instead of its savior. These are all thoughts I'm just considering. Maybe Joy Boy eventually realized it was over. There was no way to remove the brand he had received from Imu, this haki suppressant. So he prepared for the future instead, leaving everything to someone else. Or maybe, like Harold, he had someone he trusted to take his life before the Nika Devil Fruit could fall into the world government's hands. That someone, leading to what Lawrence was talking about during our top 30, that person who probably took Joy Boy out could have been Ryuma, possibly his rival if they lived during the same time. And when the Devil Fruit later reappeared in Wano, the people of Wano may have honored Joy Boy's final wish by bringing it to Elbaf for safekeeping. That would explain why no one on Elbaf ate the fruit for 800 years, why it was protected, waiting for the chosen time, or the chosen one.
Okay, so I do really like that theory and that concept in general about Joy Boy creating a symbol to counter the covenants. My pushback is the symbol you went with. You went with the X. To my understanding, the X appeared on Luffy's arm only in the newspaper, and that was for Vivi to symbolize to them that she's okay, and that's where she was. That's my theory, that's my headcanon, but that's how I interpreted the appearance of the X, because I don't think the X appeared actually, or in actuality, on Egghead, on Luffy's arm. I would have to go back to all those pages and panels to try to look at it, but I don't think we ever saw an X on Luffy's arm. I thought that was the newspaper and Vivi doing a 3D 2 wide to Luffy in reverse. Could be wrong. But the actual Joy Boy creation of a symbol or a brand or something to signify this or to protect his people, I love that. And I started thinking of different symbols that could represent that or could be used to represent that. I thought of all the nations that we have that have like the sun symbol or the moon symbol or the D symbol in general, you know what I mean? So I started thinking of all the different nations that are probably tied to Joy Boy that have that symbol of the circle, the sun god. So I really like that. I was like thinking back to the Fisherman Pirates, like maybe that's like derived from that and that they've tried to cover, like, I don't know. I started thinking of all those different symbols. So when you were saying that, so I do like that. But I definitely think the X part is a Vivi piece. But that, I could be wrong.
I honestly, when he started saying this, it already started hitting me, or I liked it too, because I don't know for the longest, but you could say it not started from Kaido, but we're beginning a similar thing of Luffy comes against like enemies that are trying to break someone's will. But we all know this, stronger willed people don't get their will broken. Even if you're not a conqueror, even like Kairos. For me, not sure he's not a conqueror, but even though all he was doing, his will was not broken. Law's not a conqueror, but his will wasn't broken against Doflamingo. Luffy and Kid are prime examples because they are conquerors, and no matter what Kaido would do to them, their will not break. Only the weaker wills people would break. So if we're going higher, because Oda keeps having something, but someone foreshadows it and does that at a greater degree. So if you can't break someone's will because they're too strong, what if, and I thought of what you're saying, you'd redirect it, allied it against you completely, where you could take control of it. I can't break it, so what do you do with it? You have it, you kind of redirect it for your purpose. So that's what made me think about those things that he's doing, because you're not breaking Rox's will. You're not breaking Harold's will. They're fighting against you. What you can do is somehow have their will work for you, where you gain control over it. So you're not breaking it, you're using it how you could use it. So like what I was like, that makes more sense of how you could use too, because like even what Harold said about even going their thoughts and stuff like that, right? How you're able to get it on a deeper level to gain control of them completely. And that makes sense where, wow, like I said before, well, I agree with Larry, I don't think it was Imu's haki that they're using. He's accessing their haki, but he's able to use it to where he sits even efficiently that they may not know or whatever. Because he found a way to access their will. So not only he's asking your mind, your body, your heart, your everything, your will as well, even your haki. So that makes more sense how he's able to use people the way he does, even like showcase that they're kind of stronger because he has them completely. So I thought of that, and then even with the symbol wise, it's funny because the first time we seen for like you bring out the X mark spot on Alabasta to identifying who our allies were because you didn't know because what Bon Clay was able to do. But then we saw it again on Wano with a different symbol. The half moon. So now I wonder if Oda's building up something because also too, like again, the symbol for Nika or whatever this is also the sun. But the main thing is too that the Jobe clan, whatever, is like they're the dawn of the world. They're supposed to bring the light of the world, right? They're the dawn over this shadow of a nightmare that is Imu. So a symbol is gonna bring it up. I don't know what it is, but I think Larry's on to something here through all of this because it points to how Oda's writing certain things. He's building up to these moments, but he's kind of like slowly hinting at it to what his greater scheme is, what Imu's actually doing. All that.
When Larry said that, I actually thought of two things, and it's like in a way, kind of way foreshadowing something. I thought of Blackbeard's fruit, the darkness. But I thought Blackbeard kind of does two things. How did he get the Gora Whitebeard's fruit? he was able to somehow extract it and use it for himself with the darkness fruit. But he's also able to stop abilities. I think Oda, like what you're saying, I think Oda took that concept with fruits, but did it with hockey in a different way. That he's able to probably stop it or access it, what Lawrence was saying. Because Blackbeard's doing the same thing. He's stopping it or somehow accessing it. That's why he's going ability hunting, because he has the Yami Yami now, which could access fruits. And Emo has the same thing. And if, when you said the mark thing, I thought of, in a way, that's another foreshadow of the slave mark that the Boar sisters got. They get a mark on them, pimps marked as slaves, just like how it's in a different way. The Covenant, you get marked. You know, you're a slave to Emu on a deeper level, but you get marked. You do whatever your master tells you as a slave. But to cover that mark, the Sun Pirates made the sun symbol. And I thought that's like, in a way, foreshadowing with, if Joe Boy made his own mark, that's like, right there, foreshadowed what he has to take away for that mark is the Joe Boy symbol mark of the sun. So I thought of that, thinking, yeah, that's crazy if he took some things similar but made it to a small, like in OVC, Oda does all the time, something small but does a similar or foreshadow into a bigger picture later on. And we've seen he did a Dressrosa, small areas in the beginning of like One Piece until now. It's like writing wise, it's just crazy because you don't think anything of it until you start getting more grasp of what the story's going. Like, yo, did he foreshadow this to make this now? Like, so I just thought of that because in the way they're somehow connected. And Emo's supposed to be like, you know, the big bad. Like, don't think reference him, but it could be also be other people or other abilities like Blackbeard, who's also to our announced the end game big bad in some way, but Emo had a greater skill. So I think he's in a way referenced two enemies of Luffy, Doflamingo and Blackbeard, and Emo's like the big one that's he's a little bit of Dolphin and a little bit of Blackbeard in a sense, but not personality-wise besides Doflamingo, but what Blackbeard's able to do as well with his ability.
I think it's pretty cool because now it's like, you know, hockey is the end-all be-all, but like it's still the end-all be-all, but Emu found a way to rebalance it to where Devil Fruits are now on par. Or he found a workaround around hockey, even if it's stronger than his. And it gives you some hopes for Blackbeard moving forward. And that's something that you praise Blackbeard for, is that he's going to find a way. So, I don't know, man. And it brings back that one theory that I had about the runes.
Runes. Yo, so that was what I was going to say earlier. And I was like, it's not entirely relevant enough, but ancient technology that allows you to store something or whatever. When I was about to interrupt you, I was going to bring up the rune theory that you had. And I was like, I can't tie it back as well as Larry probably could. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was thinking of that.
Because I came out, for those that don't know, I came out with a theory about the runes during the beginning of Elbaf, I think, when we first got there. Mm-hmm. And I was saying how, like, in Norse mythology, people would write in runes and then give power to things. And they would place it, like, on weapons and stuff like that. Like, on Thor's hammer in Marvel, there's, like, a rune.
And you know why it could be even more relevant? Look at what it looks like. Like, Nika and Joy Boy are, like, I remember my theory was the guardian deity of Elbaf, and that's why the fruit is there or whatever. But look at how they look at him. Look at how they look at Nika. Look how they look at Joy Boy. If this is a person that's used their technology even to do what you're saying or suggesting, it could be why. He has a deep-seated relationship within this culture. Maybe he even brought this technology, or they taught it to him, and he was able to use it to protect his people, protect the world, or whatever. I don't know. I really like it, bro. Yeah. I really like it.
It's funny, though. The runes thing, we have a low-key example of that, of the dials. They're almost able to do that, because even putting it to weapons, Usopp made a whole, with Nami's thing. So there's a lot you could do with the dials, but obviously that was like foreshadowing, because even Enel foreshadowed Emu to some light.
Yeah, listen, guys, if y'all haven't picked up on it already, Oda's biggest thing is using ideas and thought processes that he's already used and extrapolating on them later in the story to make them even bigger things. So like Lawrence mentioned dials, you're mentioning storing hockey and runes and stuff. Lionel's mentioning the devil fruit, it cancels it. It's all about to come back, man. I think Larry's onto it, bro.
Maybe.
I think you're onto something, bro. I like that a lot.